Before we dive into this intense journey, do me a favor and hit the like button and subscribe to Deadly Detectives. Now, let's dive in. Imagine a woman, no different than your neighbor, your colleague, your sister. Let's call her Jane, an average woman living in the heart of Texas. Jane's day, as mundane as it may seem, was filled with simple joys. A morning jog, a quiet coffee, a trip to her local grocery store. But one day, that routine took a grim and life-altering turn. Amid the familiar aisles of canned goods and fresh produce, Jane was snatched from her ordinary life and thrust into a world of unthinkable darkness. The shock was paralyzing, the reality incomprehensible. She was taken, sold into a life she never could have imagined in her worst nightmares. She was put on an auction block, her worth reduced to the highest bidder. The air was filled with a chilling silence, punctuated only by the callous exchange of currency and the shattering of her spirit. The despair was crippling. Each day she awoke to the same horrifying reality. She was a captive, a commodity, a plaything for the depraved. The world outside carried on, oblivious to her plight. The walls of her prison seemed to close in, her hope dwindling with each passing day. As I sat there, chained and broken, death seemed like a sweet release from this unending nightmare. But as the days turned into weeks and weeks into months, a new feeling began to stir within me, a determination to survive. The despair that once clouded my every thought began to lift, replaced by a resolve as unyielding as steel. Every day I became more than just a victim. I became a keen observer, a silent student. I studied my captors, their routines, their weaknesses. I memorized every nook and cranny of my prison, every squeaky floorboard, every loose bolt. This was not a task for the faint-hearted. The risks were immense. A single mistake could mean a fate far worse than my current predicament. But the thought of freedom, the dream of a life beyond these walls, was a powerful motivator. Each day was a battle, both physical and emotional. My body was pushed to its limits, my mind stretched taut with the strain of my situation. The physical toll was evident, but the emotional strain was far more insidious. The constant fear, the anxiety, the stress, it was a heavy burden to bear, but bear it, I did. I had to dig deep within myself, find reservoirs of strength I didn't know I possessed. I honed my mind, my body into a weapon, a tool. I was no longer just a captive, I was a survivor, a fighter. Every night as I lay on that cold, hard floor, I visualized my escape, my return to freedom. The day finally came, the day where I would either win my freedom or lose my life. Imagine, if you will, a feeling of terror so profound, so all-consuming, it's as if your very heart might burst from your chest. Now multiply that feeling by 1,000. That was the fear coursing through my veins as I prepared to make my escape. Every step was a daring dance with danger, every breath a silent prayer for survival. In the dead of night, under the cloak of darkness, I made my break for freedom. My heart pounded like a drum against my ribs, the adrenaline rushing through my body like a torrent. Each step was a gamble, a roll of the dice in this deadly game of chance. The fear of being caught was a constant presence, a shadow that clung to me like a second skin. But then something incredible happened. I saw the first light of dawn breaking in the distance, and I realized I had made it. The exhilaration that surged through me then was unlike anything I had ever experienced. It was the sweet taste of freedom, a flavor I had nearly forgotten. Rescue came in the form of kind strangers who took me in, nursed me back to health, and helped me reclaim my life. I returned to my old life, but I was not the same person I once was. I was stronger, braver, a survivor. Over time, I managed to rebuild my life from the ruins. I put back together the pieces of my broken spirit and emerged from the ordeal stronger than ever. My past is a part of me, but it does not define me. I am not who they tried to make me. I was once sold to the highest bidder, reduced to an object. But today I stand here, not as a victim, but as a survivor. I am not who they tried to make me. I am who I choose to be.